Hi, everyone. It's Mary Olson, Reader's Advisory Librarian at Medina County District Library. This is episode 3 of the Library Talk Show, and it's just a way for us to connect with you and talk about books while the library is closed. And I'm here today with Brunswick Children's Associate, Amanda Coven. And Amanda, tell us a little bit about yourself and share the book you brought today.
Yes. Hey, Mary. It's good to see you.
Hey.
I'll take any chance I can to talk books with you, so I'm happy to be here.
Thanks. I love it. I'm so glad you came.
Yeah. And just like you said, I work in the Brunswick Library in the children's department, and I have been there for close to 5 years now. So time really has just flown by.
It does go quickly.
Yeah. So I'm very excited to talk with you about one of my favorite books. I think it's probably in my top 5. When We Left Cuba by Chanel Cleeton. I don't have a copy of it, so I just have like a little picture here on my iPad. But if I have talked books with you anytime in the past year since I read this, I probably have suggested this book to you. I was actually texting with a friend of mine earlier this week about books, and I said, you know, if you like a strong female character, I think you're going to love this book. And then she had texted me this quote, and it was something like, I like stories where women save themselves. And I'm like, yes, you're going to love this.
Yes.
And I know, Mary, you like World War II.
I do. I love it.
Yes, and I like it too. And I think that quote is just what I love about World War II. You know, it's maybe not the setting or even the time period, but it's just what these women go through and overcome, and just their strength and like their bravery in that time that just is so admirable.
I love their resilience. I just find it so inspiring. And I was actually right when the pandemic shut everything down and we were just at home. All I read was World War II for about 6 weeks, because I just needed the perspective and I needed to be inspired and reading about courageous women. I loved it.
Yep. I just read one, same thing. And I just thought, you know what, if they can go through what they went through, we can do this. You know, we can do this.
Yes.
Yeah. But so When We Left Cuba, the story centers around Beatrice Perez. And I think she is the epitome of that quote I just told you about. She is strong-willed and she is intelligent. She is loyal. She's brave, she's independent, she's just all these things. And she's so young, you know, she's only 22 in the book. And sometimes I'm like, man, you're only 22, because she does all these things. And she's really beautiful, and she knows, you know, kind of how pretty she is. And she kind of knows how to use that to her advantage. And it gives her some power when dealing with the men in her life. But she also doesn't ever take it too far. So she's like everything I love about reading a book about a strong female character. But just like a little bit of backstory. So Beatrice is originally from Cuba. And when they lived in Cuba, her father was in the sugar business. So he was like this titan of that industry down there in Cuba. And the book takes place in the 1960s. So when Castro kind of like rises to power down there in Cuba, he takes Beatrice's father's land to use it for the government. So, I mean, they go from being on top, you know, they have money and they have power and they have their social standing, to literally in a day, because this happens on New Year's Day, to having nothing. So they come up to Palm Beach, Florida. And that's kind of where we meet the family. And, you know, they're just trying to, I think, get their bearings there. You know, her father is trying to build up his business again. And they kind of want to build their wealth back up. They want to build their social standing back up. And I think Beatrice very early on realizes that she does not fit in there. And that's not what she wants. She wants to be back in Cuba. That is where her heart is. That is kind of like her driving force for this entire story. And, you know, her mom and her dad are kind of focused on meet somebody and marry the right man. And that's going to give you what you need. And she just doesn't agree with that at all. And there was one scene I remember, and she was at this kind of like high society event, and she was looking around at all the other women. And she said something along the lines of, my figure is too curvy, my name is too foreign, and my skin is too dark. And I think she knows, and it's not what she wants either. Her sister kind of says to her at one point, like, why don't you just find a nice man and get married? And she just cannot even believe that's what her sister is settling for, because she will stop at nothing to kind of get back to Cuba and just to kind of free her country from Castro. That is her driving force of this entire story. And I think Chanel Cleeton, her writing style, it's just so well done. I'm not somebody that can sit down and read like 500, 600, 700-page books.
Yeah.
It's just too long for me. So I feel like she had the right amount of detail where she needed it, but then it moved along when it needed to move along. But there were just these like beautiful, atmospheric, just very vivid scenes. The society events, like I mentioned before, I could feel how uncomfortable she was in those. She said in the one scene, like her shoes were a size too big because they were her sister's, and she was wearing a dress she wore to another event, and her jewels were fake, and people were kind of whispering about her. And you just felt like how uncomfortable she was there. And then there's this whole nother level of the story where she kind of gets involved with the CIA. And so there's
yes.
espionage kind of going on. And her goal is to infiltrate Castro, to somehow work her way in and to get him to trust her and to bring him down. And, we know history, and we know that doesn't happen, but it's still so interesting to kind of get that little insider view of what that was like, in the time there. And
this just sounds like just so many things that are so popular in fiction right now all come together. Really courageous, resourceful heroine, a really rich setting, a time in history really I don't know a lot about.
Right.
The 60s. I mean, really in general, that was before I was born, but you don't ever get to that in school. You don't get to much of that modern history. So this sounds like just a perfect blend of all kinds of elements that people enjoy reading. And if I'm remembering it right, the cover is just a gorgeous cover.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like her back, and she's sitting at like a pool, but she's wearing a very like fancy hat, and you just get that feel for Palm Beach right with the cover. You kind of are, what this story is going to, kind of be about, the setting of this story. So yeah, it's
great recommendation. Just perfect choice. I'm so glad that you shared it, and I guarantee people are going to be putting that on hold as soon as they're done watching the Library Talk Show.
Yes, I hope they do.
They will. Hey, Amanda, tell us what you've been doing at home to stay sane during this time.
Oh, that's a great question, Mary. Yeah, we have just been trying to get outside as much as we can. I mean, even the days that aren't that nice, we're still kind of like bundled up, taking a family walk. The days that we have had that are warm, I mean, I've been sitting out on my hammock or sitting out on my deck reading, when the kids are napping, and we've been eating meals outside on our deck, and I garden. So I have like my vegetable garden is ready to go. I'm just waiting for the right date to kind of plan that. And yeah, just getting outside to see the sun and to hear the birds chirping. It's my sanity right now, I feel like.
There's a tremendous difference on days that we have sunlight and days that we don't. I mean, it's just, I don't want to make a cliche, but it's night and day, really.
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're doing that. Yeah. Hey, my last question for you is, what are you most looking forward to when we're back in our libraries?
Oh, I think probably two things. I really miss my staff at Brunswick, the children's staff. I mean, we love working together. We love planning programs for the kids. We love bouncing ideas off of each other and sharing books that we've read and sharing recipes that we cook. And I just really miss them. And I miss the kids, I miss my story time families. I miss them like running in to give me a hug. And whenever I ring the bell for story time, like running to the door and singing Skidamarink at the end of story time. Like I miss those little faces.
Well, I'm sure that they're missing the library too, and they're missing Miss Amanda.
Yeah.
So maybe some of them will catch you here on this little recording. And I know that your story time was very popular too. So thank you for being a part of this crazy idea I had and just giving us a chance to visit and visit with our members while we're away from each other. So take care of yourself. Thank you for the great book recommendation. And hopefully I will see you soon at the library.
Yes, I hope so. Bye.
Bye.